Welcome to Forsaken Realms Vahrin's Call early review. Early review means I haven't finished the game yet, so my opinion might change if and when I finish it. So far I'm reviewing the first 20 hours in which I finished first 3 chapters with lots of side stuff on suicidal difficulty. Full review if I finish the game is going to be on Patreon and Subscribestar. A review key was provided by the studio. So what the hell is even Forsaken Realms Vahrin's Call, you befuddled bastards? It's a Souls-like RPG of sorts. A chill, casual indie Souls-like. I know, sounds like an oxymoron, but that's what it is. If you're looking for a deep, serious, dark, lore-focused, punishing Souls-like, this game is not it. World is colorful, soft on the surface, but with some gruesome stuff, softened by the art style, which means easy on the eyes overall. Lots of flowers, grass, abandoned houses, trees. World is constructed through connected areas. Some areas are open world, others function more like a big dungeon, and overall it works as it offers a different exploration style through the area layout change. Areas are also connected in a senseful way. Biomes don't change drastically, which is a good thing as it makes the world more steady, immersive and believable. For example, we are gonna move through the city outskirts, which are open fields, but upon entering the city, layout changes into more narrow passageways. World functions nicely visually and practically, but sometimes progressing through non-open areas is overly convoluted where it doesn't have to be to that extent, but alright. Every area is full of collectibles. There is a counter that says how many chests, skill books and garden gnomes are in each area. Some are quite difficult to find, so paying attention matters. Chests and skill books are quite rewarding, so exploration definitely pays off. Important part of character leveling works in a way that we find skill books through which we learn new skills. Chests always grant new equipment, which is otherwise rare as new stuff drops only from bosses and as quest rewards. So exploring is very important. Without it, the character won't be able to benefit from a variety of skills and equipment upgrades. I still don't know what's the purpose of killing garden gnomes except that it's connected to a side quest. Must be a hell of a reward for completing it, cause those little laughing shits are everywhere and difficult to spot. Have to say it's nice to have meaningful rewards in every area. Sometimes equipment that drops from chests is not good, but skill books are always useful, as it's the only way so far at least to learn new techniques and upgrade playstyle efficiently. Looting can get tedious though. Most objects that grant random loot have a frequent respawn rate, so constantly looting stuff gets old fast. Less objects with more loot than a single one would be a better option to reduce the loot frequency. Can't comment much on the writing as of yet, as there ain't that much of it in the first 3 chapters. Still need to see more of it and how the story develops over time. Gameplay uses most of the playtime and it works fine like that with rare instances of NPC interactions. Creates a good dynamic overall because when there are events related to story and side quests, you are going to most likely welcome some interactions at that point. That points to a good pacing between gameplay and the non-gameplay elements.
My oaths hold. You there. I would urge you to keep those rather large ears to yourself and return to whichever soul-forsaken hamlet spat you out. You're as likely to have your throat slit as you are to be ravaged by Aethspawn within this cursed city.
Story in the first 3 chapters is there, I guess, nothing special, but it doesn't hurt the game. We are a mercenary called by the higher-ups of the city of Vahrin to help out, as the city is in shambles due to the Snatcher faction taking control of the city and the area outside of it. How did that happen though? Well, that's where things become more interesting as to who is behind it all. Not gonna spoil anything, I still have to see how deep the story goes. There is some lore during the intro, but it's completely ignored throughout the game from what I've seen so far. A shame, there's no more lore connection with the region and the world outside Vahrin. Lack of stories, myths, character backgrounds is obvious. Would add a lot to the world and the game in general if there's more of it. Forsaken Realm has quite a few quests. Some of them are simple fetch quests, while others require investigative effort in the form of puzzles, like using scarecrows as a clue to get to a secret stash of weapons to break open the murder investigation. And then you get to the truth of how the murder happened, which uncovers some interesting writing. Some of the quests do have interesting writing, thankfully, which really helps the game considering there is no decision making and that lore is lacking. Couple quests that I've stumbled upon progress through many areas before the final conclusion. For example, Who in This World Am I quest that I still haven't completed, but it definitely intrigued me to chase the finish to see what it's all about. Or Vault of Vahrin, where we uncover clues about the vault and how to get in it, meaning what's the password. Overall, quests work as a good content filler, so that it's not just collecting stuff in each area. Without the quests, especially the ones with interesting story bits, the game would be a lot less interesting. There's quite a bit of humor in the game as well, which works rather well with the art style. When it comes to combat, it's a mixed bag. AI is weak, so don't expect much from enemies. Melee combat is weak, as it's way too basic. Dodge roll animation is horrible, with nonsensical animation speed and distance covering. I've played mostly with heavy gear to get the reduced dodge animation in the form of quick evasion without the full roll. Melee hit feedback is kinda weak too. But the way the game allows style mixing with many potential playstyles with interesting spells, techniques and how everything can be combined to create unique builds does offset the lack of polish and deeper systems, which affect pure melee combat the most. If you're looking for a Souls-like to play purely with melee builds like me and are not interested in mixing things, then it's difficult to recommend Forsaken Realms. It's not bad, it's just way too basic, and as such it has a hard time to create exciting encounters for melee players. However, adding Fireball as a way to damage enemies bum rushing you, apply Frost Weapon to slow enemy action significantly, lay couple traps, add floating rocks that protect, it suddenly becomes a much more interesting combat overall. There's quite a few options and it's satisfying to use spells, especially on the enemies. Bow is quite satisfying to use too. So there are ways to offset combat weaknesses. It's an indie game after all, and we can't expect miracles in terms of combat polish for such a game. Gotta be realistic. I think for most people combat options are going to overcome combat weaknesses, but that's just an assumption based on nothing. You tell me if you've played the game. Game doesn't punish mixing, it instead rewards, so I believe developers knew the limitations and how to overcome them. Smart approach. Though it can be quite gimmicky on a gamepad to constantly have to pop up a quick bar to choose an ability and then cast it. Seems like some shortcut buttons are missing for gamepads. Maybe they add that in the updates. Unfortunately, a weak combat framework and the lack of depth in Souls-likes means that boss fights are inevitably gonna suffer. Great boss fight is not easy to create after all. Boss fights in a game like this mostly serve as a build test, as in how fast and in what way can I get through this dickhead. Most bosses are quite easy even on suicidal difficulty, with only one giving me some problems so far. Depends on the build and preferred main weapon how difficult some fights are gonna be, but it's mostly easy and underwhelming in terms of experience. Stealth also sucks, as it's pretty much useless and too basic. Forsaken Realms is on Unreal Engine 5 with typical problems like texture pop-in, muddy textures everywhere when not upscaling. When upscaling and not moving looks good, but as soon as player moves, upscaled Unreal Engine 5 games look like shit. Good art style with modest texture quality does offset some of the engine weaknesses because the visual fidelity doesn't create such a huge discrepancy in how the game looks when in perfect state versus how it looks when moving. So even though engine weaknesses affect the game, it's still not nearly as bad as some other games that desperately want to look good but look subpar most of the time. Such art style with occasional silly humor in a game that doesn't take itself too seriously does create a cozy and chill atmosphere, which is a strange thing in a Souls-like. That's why it's difficult to rate a game like Forsaken Realms. I don't rate games that I haven't fully beaten, because in most cases I consider it unfair towards the game, so these early reviews are mostly a more in-depth impression than a review. Is it a high quality game? No. Is it a bad game? No. It's a different experience to most other Souls-likes that can be easy to enjoy. Forsaken Realms Vahrin's Call is a cozy, chill, shallow Souls-like RPG. Easy to get into, easy to get out of, doesn't annoy most of the time, doesn't punish, gives free reign on the combat playstyles, has some interesting quests. Anyway, if I finish the game, the full review is going to be on Patreon and Subscribestar. Links are in the description. Thanks for watching.
I'll spill your guts!